Hello everybody. Airlines around the world have posted record profits in the last quarter. And yes, this is how they should be celebrating.
But the next step for Newcastle is the hardest one. There's expectation now with the club. Obviously the lads having a bit of a dance there, oh my goodness.
But instead, the largest airlines of Australia, Qantas, their CEO, announced their quarterly profits this way.
But we are seeing unbelievable demand across the board, really strong demand in leisure, in business, in SME, in corporate. And that's led to a record result in Qantas domestic.
I don't know, honestly, why he was pissed off. That was weird, right? I have a theory around it, and I'll probably share that theory with you in the later part of the video. Now, this was truly a bad situation for airlines around the world in the last few years. There were cost cuttings, layoffs, pay cuts, then government support, and also these guys were reaching out to their manufacturing partners like Boeing and telling them that, hey, we can't pay you the money right now, so why don't you extend the payment deadlines? So it was pressure from every single direction for these companies, and to think about it, turning around the situation in less than 3 years is highly commendable. Now, what helped them change this situation? Number one is, of course, increase in revenues. Two aspects to it. Number one, increase in the airfare price, and the second one is also the increase in the number of customers traveling. Well, this article very clearly states that more than 25% price hike in the airfares. This compared to inflation is also pretty high. It's outpacing inflation pretty easily. And that is the reason why the total revenues are increasing. And if you think about it, it's not just the airfare, it is also the number of customers traveling are also increasing. Well, after getting frustrated and not traveling for 3 years, 2 years, imagine a lot of customers just want to go out and go on that vacation, even if it means paying a little more. And that is what we are witnessing right now. So pent-up demand and increase in airfares, both of them worked hand in hand, and both of them helped the companies to record profits. And the second thing is about costs. This is a never before incident in the industry. So they could go back, think about where they are spending that money and be a little more prudent.
Okay, so how do you offer lower fares than the other people? I mean, you're paying your employees less, your planes are not as well serviced. What is the reason? How can you do that?
Well, we don't pay our people less.
Well, as the CEO of TrueJet, right, one of the biggest airlines in the US, as he's saying, they have to go and pay their employees right now what they deserve. They cannot continue to pay these employees lower salaries. So salaries is not the question, but it is about identifying the routes which are more profitable for them, identifying or increasing the utilization, the number of seats that they are filling in every aircraft, that is also increasing because more people are traveling. So all these things have also helped them to manage their costs better. The third thing could be their increase in the service quality.
There's still issues with people not receiving refunds. There's still issues with baggage going missing. There's still issues with baggage being offloaded. There's still issues with planes being diverted. There's still issues with flights being cancelled.
Well, as this lady is saying, I agree with her completely. I don't think this hypothesis works that, hey, the service is increasing. Almost all the airlines in the world have these service issues. And if we give this lady a pen and paper, I think she can write a book easily with respect to what are the issues with respect to service in the airlines industry. And I think that book would be one of the best sellers. So service is not definitely a hypothesis that we can consider. However, the fourth and the interesting reason why and how these companies are preparing for the future is going ahead with acquisitions, mergers, ordering more aircrafts, and also getting into newer routes. For example, Singapore Airlines knows that, hey, they do not have any kind of domestic presence. Singapore Airlines just can't keep roaming their flights within Singapore, right? No, that they can't do. So they have to get into international markets. Now, what happened in the last few years? All the governments have supported their local airline players. And now the government want these local airline players to do better. And that is the reason why international carriers are having tough times. This is illustrated very well with the case what Qantas and Qatar Airways are having with respect to Australia.
Qatar Airways wants to double its current flights into Australia to 21 flights a week.
Qatar Airways want to increase the number of flights it is serving in Australia. But of course, Qantas and the government is trying to block this through regulatory moves. And that is the reason why Singapore Airlines is so specific with respect to the Air Vistara expansion, so that it get access into the domestic skies within India. India is going to be the third largest market for air travel in the entire world in the next 5 to 10 years. So Singapore Airlines, it's setting up its base. Now what about Air India? Air India has also ordered 470 flights, right? That is worth close to $70 billion as per the list price. And they also want to expand in both domestic and the international presence. Now you can see more and more airline providers are looking to expand and don't want to depend on one particular segment of the market. Like Singapore Airlines, they just don't want to depend on international carriers anymore. Qantas, they are trying to entirely build their presence within Australia. And Qatar is trying to expand into Australia and other markets. Similarly, Air India, you can see almost every single player is trying to go beyond what they were doing before pandemic. And that's a great sign for the entire market. Now, with all these things being said, why does the Qantas CEO having such a pissed off face in his entire interview? Because there were also protests against the price hikes specifically that Qantas was doing. And that is the reason why, even though if he was basically announcing great results, even though the board, the entire company shareholders were appreciative, he could not come out in public and say that, hey, we are doing great stuff. Otherwise, the CEO usually has a good smile, good presence. But in this particular video, he was pretty grim-faced because of that reason. That's my personal opinion. I hope you like this video. Do let me know if you like this particular format, guys. I'll continue to make more videos along this way. Thank you. See you again. Bye-bye.